Hi, in this episode of The Secret Sauce of Large Property Managers, I have invited Alex Limpert, who is the CEO of GuestReady. GuestReady has 2,500 properties throughout Europe and Asia, and they're only 3 years old. So how did they manage to scale so rapidly? Was my main question actually during this interview. I also had questions about marketing, distribution, how he attracts owners to work with him in a very, very crowded market. And you can listen to all of these answers on YouTube and on podcast. And I see you on the other side. Cheers. Hi, Alex. How are you? Thanks so much for participating in the Secret Sauce of Large Property Managers. We are very, very curious to hear the secret sauce of GuestReady.
Very much, Vanessa. I'm excited to be here.
Brilliant, brilliant. So let's launch straight into it. No small talk on this podcast. What were you doing before GuestReady, and what are you doing now at GuestReady?
So before GuestReady, I was in a very different industry, which is the food delivery industry. I was working for a company called Food Panda, and we were helping restaurants to get bookings, to get orders for their food, and then also we were delivering this food. So very different industry, but in the end, we were doing something similar, which is basically using technology to coordinate a lot of offline processes in a seamless way. And I actually then had also this inspiration from Food Panda for GuestReady, where I am the co-founder and CEO now. And we started it 3 years ago, and the goal is to help property owners unlock the value of their real estate. And we are managing all the processes that are required for running such a short-term rental for them. And we're building our in-house technology to be able to do this in a seamless way.
Great. Well, you touched on lots of things that I want to dive deep into, but only 3 years, really. How many properties do you manage?
By now, we're managing about 2,500 properties.
Oh my good God, you've scaled really rapidly, right?
Yeah, actually, it's been a pretty good journey. Yeah.
So tell me about the scaling process, because in 2 years, 2,500 properties. What's the key to scaling so fast? How have you done it? How did you do it?
Well, I would say we did something pretty unusual from the beginning on, that we started in several cities at the same time. So we started at 6 cities when we launched, which was pretty crazy, I would say, because usually you just build this sort of business from one city, and then you go from there, you maybe add another city, and it just grows organically. But we started in 6 cities, which meant that initially we just had one person per city, which then also meant that I started in London, and I needed to run all the operations, get the first homes, clean those homes, hand over the keys and all of that. So I'm quite happy that we moved on from those days, but it was also a good learning experience to really know the business from ground up. And I think this laid the foundation for our scaling across different markets, which I think is a hard part of our business, that in one sense it's very global. If you think about distribution or what guest wants, the guest expectations, those sort of things are all very global. But when you think about the supply side, the property owners, the local circumstances, those are actually hyper local. And I think this, starting from several cities at the same time, really gave us a good foundation for scaling across different cities.
And those different cities are where?
So those different cities, we are now in the UK, in France, Portugal, Dubai, Hong Kong, and Kuala Lumpur. And the original cities were actually Hong Kong, Kuala Lumpur, London, Paris, and then we also had a trial in Amsterdam and in Singapore, which in the end didn't last. We didn't get the traction that we wanted to see, and that's completely fine. So we just focused on those cities where we saw the best traction.
Why didn't it work? What's the learning from?
Well, we had from the beginning this approach that we said, okay, let's try this in a few places, because in the beginning, also 3 years ago, we weren't, let's say, that familiar with the whole industry, with each single market. So we looked at mostly the market size. Actually, where do we see a lot of properties on platforms such as Airbnb? And then we said if there's a lot of properties, then there must be demand for our services. But in some places like Amsterdam or Singapore, we just didn't really quite get the traction. So we said, we don't have that much resources. Let's focus on those markets where we get the best traction.
Okay, so that's how you're going to scale in the future. You're going to continue becoming the number one in those cities, or trying at least, or are you going to open new cities?
Yeah, so going forward, we're of course much more. We analyze much more each single market before we enter a new market. So it's different from the very early days when we just launched the business and just kind of jumped into it. And now we know what's required. We look at a lot of different factors for each single market and make much more rational decisions when opening a new market. And I think that approach worked pretty well for us. So we opened Lisbon, Porto with this approach. We opened Dubai with this approach, and those markets are doing really well for us.
Super. Well done. I actually skipped a question that I wanted to ask you. So what is the GuestReady brand? GuestReady brand. Is there, because I'm sure, hopefully everybody knows about you, but there might be some that don't know about you. What does it stand for? What does the brand stand for?
Yeah, we actually did an exercise internally where we're thinking, what do we really stand for? And on the one side, we have company values, but more for the brand is what do we stand for as a brand towards the outside? And we said it's mainly two aspects. The first is related to performance, and the second one is related to delivering a personal service. So for the first one, that is more performance, is about getting the best rental returns for owners, being tech savvy, having the best tools, dynamic pricing optimization, automated payments, mobile apps for managing the operations, these sort of things. And then on the other side, completely different on the spectrum is providing a personal hospitality service, both to the hosts and to the guests. And we want to use technology to actually provide this service at scale. So we see that each of our hosts has a unique property, they have unique circumstances, and the same for the guest. Each of them is looking forward to a unique stay, and we want to be able to provide this hospitality experience for them. So this is sort of the two sides of the spectrum of our brand, and we're trying to combine those two sides in our brand.
And so technology helps with both sides, but I want to hear more about that because, as soon as you say, you want to stay unique and personal, how can tech help do that? But we'll come back to that because since we're on the subject of brand, is brand consistency important? This is one question I had for all my interviewees, and we have mixed feelings about that. Also because when you talk about having these properties in different cities with different owners, obviously, how do you keep the brand consistent? I mean, do you have something like a brand like Stay Alfred would have multifamily units, etc. They would, as you go into the apartment, you would recognize it. It's a Stay Alfred. That's much harder to do, right? When for a brand like GuestReady, how do you do it? Is it important?
Yeah. So actually, for GuestReady, we have two sides of the brand, and I would say so far we focus mostly on one of those two sides, which is the side towards the owner, our brand towards the owner. And there I think it's about just having really good operations and being able to show that to the owners with past experience, with reviews. We also got some good exposure in media like the Times or TechCrunch or Forbes or some of the regional newspapers. So this helps all to build up this trusted brand towards owners. We also won Service Department Awards. We were named one of the top startups in the UK and Switzerland as well. So these things really help for this brand. And this brand is I would say, a bit more like a B2B brand, because owners, they really inform themselves before they come on board with a property manager. So they're really involved. And I think it's a bit different than the other side of the brand, which is the brand towards guests. And I think that's also the side that you were talking about before, where you come into a property as a guest and you actually recognize the property. For us, that's harder to do because we work with individual hosts and they have each unique tastes. And we actually feel that's okay because also our guests have unique tastes. And I think that's also what the sharing economy and short-term rentals is about, that it's not just a hotel where each hotel looks the same. Each of our properties might be different. What we want to make sure, though, is that towards the guests, we have a consistent brand in terms of the experience. So you can expect that you have 24/7 somebody that you can call if something is not working well, or you have Wi-Fi that is kind of standard, but probably not in every property. On Airbnb or Booking.com, you have a spotless, clean apartment, hotel quality linen, towels, all sorts of things that you would expect from a professional stay, but it doesn't mean that each property looks the same.
Very good, very good. And so you're mainly a B2B brand, okay? So how do you make sure, because there's a lot of competition out there, right? In all the destinations that you mentioned, it's pretty hardcore. So how do you make sure, and also new entrants? I keep on hearing our fellow US property managers coming over and wanting to take over Europe. How do you make sure that owners sign up with you as opposed to with the competition?
I think it's about already proving that this operational capabilities during the sales process. So we make sure that we always have somebody available to talk to the owners, that we're reactive, that we're on the ball when it's about questions that our homeowners have. And we also have people on the ground in each city. I think that's something that not everyone in our industry has, but for us it's important from a commercial side to understand the market, to understand which areas can work well, which areas maybe don't work, what sort of interior is required, and just understanding the local circumstances, such as the legal laws as well, the requirements that differ city by city. And we've been able to build up this local expertise. And I think hosts recognize that when they're in a sales process, who knows the local circumstances, who doesn't. And that's been working pretty well for us to expand.
Muy bien, muy bien. Okay, so let's move on to the topic of scaling internationally. You say you have people on the ground, right? So how does that work? How do you employ really good people to represent you? Is that a challenge to find good teams on the ground? And is that one of the challenges for scaling internationally?
Yeah, I would say people are at the core of our business, and our success is driven by our team. So it's very important to have good people in the team. And of course, for every scaling business, that's one of the challenges, to find good people. So far, we were pretty lucky, and I think we were also able to rely on our network to find some good people. And if not, then we were actively going out, scouting the market for people that could be a good fit. Because one thing that is a bit unique about our industry, I would say, is that there's not a long history. There's not that many people that know this industry for such a long time already. So we need to look at similar businesses that have similar types of experience where we can recruit from. And that's worked pretty well for us. So we looked at other companies like, for example, food delivery, where I'm from, or more operations heavy startups, hospitality industry overall, and looked to find talents there.
Okay. And did you acquire, I don't remember, did you acquire any other company?
Yeah, we actually, that's also a good way to scale for us. Originally, we just said we want to build the best product, the best technology, and and scale organically. But we had pretty early on an opportunity to acquire a competitor called Easy Rental Services, and that worked out pretty well for us, I think, for both Easy Rental Services, but also for us. And then since then, we've been more open to such opportunities and have done two more acquisitions with Oporto City Flats and also Belored last year.
Okay, so that's 3 acquisitions so far.
Yeah, that's correct.
And how many more next year?
Well, actually, the news go around, and we've also announced those acquisitions. So what we see now is that we get quite a few smaller and mid-sized property managers reaching out to us and seeing if there's an opportunity for them to join GuestReady, and we're looking into those opportunities carefully, and I think we're quite open for such opportunities in future.
Have a glass of water, please. Okay, so what makes a good property management acquisition? How do you evaluate if they're good?
I think it really depends. If it's a new market, I would say the team is really important, because we're going into a new market with this team. If it's an existing market, sometimes it's much more about the portfolio that they manage. In some cases, technology could be interesting, but we have our in-house technology, so usually that's not really something that we look at. But there might be some good learnings also from that side. So it's really different aspects that can be interesting for such an acquisition.
Cool. So you talked about technology. That's exactly what I want to head to. Tell me, tech girl. Tell me, what have you built and what do you outsource? How many programmers do you have?
We have a tech team of about 20 people, and Super. And what we've learned pretty early on is 2 things: that there are a lot of good solutions already on the market. So from the beginning, we don't need to build everything in-house. But also we learned that if we want to be adaptive and scale fast, then we do need to have our own in-house technology.
And so what have you built? Because you said earlier, dynamic pricing, mobile apps, which of those? I mean, give me a list.
Yeah.
What is it that you've built and what is it that you outsource?
So from the beginning, we said that the solutions that we don't see that much out there is everything that comes after the booking. So for everything that is more operational, related to running the on-the-ground operations, the task management, what we call the payment processing, for example, the relationship with the owners. And that's actually the core of where we started, and where we started to build our in-house technology. By now we have everything in-house except of the channel management.
That's great. Yeah. Because channel management is very hard, isn't it? Leave that to the experts.
I think that's right, and it's also something that there are some good solutions out there, so we're happy to work with them and then focus on the other tasks on the other sides to build that in-house.
Great. I hope you include me in that pack.
Of course.
Good. So talking about distribution, since we're now talking about channel management, how does distribution work for you? How do you choose your channels? How many, are you on all the big OTAs? Is it that you cherry pick? Do you just want to be seen as much as possible, or do you make these decisions very, very carefully?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we had a few shifts there in our strategy. I think initially we started just from Airbnb, which was due to operational complexity. We just said, starting a business from zero, let's keep it simple. We need to learn a lot about our operations, so let's just focus on one channel. And I would say Airbnb is a channel that works pretty well and that have a lot of a lot of technology already to automate or to help property owners to rent. So, for example, payments is something that Airbnb does, and other parts are also quite easy. But then we said our vision actually for GuestReady is to help owners to unlock the value of real estate. We can't do that if we're just on one channel. So we need to be on all the channels out there. And then we went a bit the other way around, and we just listed on as many channels as possible. And then again, a shift happened where we realized that we're on a lot of channels, but some channels don't get us that many bookings. So it's not really worth it. It's better to focus on a few channels, do them really well, understand exactly how to work with them, and get most out of those channels. So we cut them back a bit. So we're now in between. I would say we focus on a handful of channels, the biggest ones, plus we also add a few niche channels that have good booking potential, that are more regional or more focused on a specific niche market.
Would you mind sharing the niche sites that you're working with?
Yeah, for example, we're working with Plum Guide, we're working with HomeLike. Those are two good examples where they carve out specific segments. Plum Guide is a bit more upmarket, and HomeLike is a channel that is more focused on midterm rentals. So that works pretty well for our strategy.
Great. Well, you'll be very happy to know that I'm creating the little sister of the Who's Who, the Who's Who, with only channels. So I'm researching, I've already got 100 channels. Those two that you mentioned are in the list. And I'm researching the best niche sites to advertise on. Include them, and I'm going to include how much they charge, and where they're strong, etc., which travel trend they look at. So I'll send you that as soon as I have it.
Looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Okay. So I just want to quickly come back to owners, because I know that's something that other property managers are very keen to hear about. And so how do you market to them when it comes to the organic marketing? So when you don't acquire, how do you manage to market to owners? Because there's also distribution, right? So you're saying that you're more a B2B brand, right? So most of your marketing money goes towards owners. So how do you do this well, or as well as you have, given the scale?
Yeah. So what we realized is that because it's more of a B2B market, owners actually inform themselves about who is out there, what sort of solutions exist. And therefore, it's important to just be present online and be easily findable by those owners when they do their research. So that's something that we focused on a lot. So actually, most owners just find us and then reach out to us rather than the other way around. But also what is happening now is that there's more, as our portfolio grows, we have more owners, there's more word of mouth, there are more referrals coming from existing owners and also from other players in the industry that are referring new clients to us. So I think those are the main two channels for us.
Cool. And I know I'm jumping around a bit, but one last question about technology. You built most of it yourself, apart from channel management. Are you planning to outsource this technology to other property managers? I know it's a question I've asked you before, but our listeners don't know the answer to that. Yeah,
you'd be pleased to hear that we're one step ahead now. So we have already a few property managers that are using this system. That again, this grew organically. We just saw that whenever we told other property managers in the market about what we have in house, they were pretty open to this and were pretty excited about the opportunities for them that this could give them. So then we were working on ways that we could give this technology also to other property managers, and now we have already several clients or several partner property managers that are working with the same system, and it's working really well for them. I think they get the same benefits that also we had to be able to scale and to have more free time thinking about business development and to have the operations more automated.
That's wonderful. So you confirmed the trends that I announced at Prague. Remember, there's going to be more and more
Absolutely, you
PMs
knew it.
reselling their tech. But you didn't tell me then that you were going to do it. So tell me about your predictions for next year. What do you think is going to happen? And your thoughts on consolidation is a word that we hear constantly. Is the market going to consolidate as soon as next year? Is it ever going to consolidate?
I think this consolidation already started in 2019, and I think it's going to continue in 2020 as well. So in 2019, we saw that a few players came together. I already mentioned that we bought B&B Lord. A few players exited the market, like B&B Sitter and Chill, unfortunately, and also Altido, for example, is an example where a few property managers came together. So I think this trend will continue. What I still believe, there are many opportunities for smaller property managers that are doing a really great job locally. And we also see that there might be some more hybrid models where it's not a full-on acquisition, but where smaller property managers piggyback on the technology of bigger property managers like GuestReady. So this is another way how actually you could really leverage the local expertise and the strong setup of some local property managers that know those markets for many decades, but are maybe not the most tech savvy or have the best operational setup, so they can actually also leverage that by joining the technology solution of GuestReady, for example.
Super. And so master-lease, for example, the multi-unit service apartments, family units, whatever names you give them,
Mm-hmm.
Are they a threat? Because you only urban, right? So
I don't think that's a threat. I think that's an opportunity. That's also something that we're looking into. I think in some markets this works pretty well, but I think it's just a much more risky business. So each opportunity needs to be evaluated really carefully. And if you go in too high with your master lease, a lease agreement on what you pay to the owners, then you might pay for that later. So I think it's just something that needs to be evaluated carefully. But I do believe in this model where on a case-by-case basis, and in some markets it works better than in others.
Cool. Well, everything remains to be seen. So now we're going to do the game show. It's a quick true false, and the idea is that I say a sentence, and then you go either true or false. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So the vacation rental industry will topple the hotel industry next year.
Not quite yet.
So false.
False. Yeah.
Voice-activated travel assistants are a must.
Also false. I would also say it's not quite there yet.
Okay. Google will become the only OTA.
False.
Consolidation in the tech industry is bad for property managers. In the tech industry.
False. I keep saying on false.
Maybe we'll get one true now. Consolidation of property management companies is bad for guests.
False too.
Vacation rental growth in urban areas will continue despite regulations.
True.
Yeah,
Here we go.
we got one.
Finally.
All good. You have to invest in technology because guests' needs are changing.
True.
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to invest yourself, but you definitely need to invest in technology overall, either through partners or by doing it yourself.
Sure. Keyless locks are a must.
True, I would say true, but it's good to have, but I think there are ways without it, but it's good to have. Yeah.
Okay. And US brands will have a hard time implementing in Europe?
True.
Last one. When space travel becomes available, you'll scale into lunar territory.
Absolutely.
That's funny. Go for it, Alex.
Sky's the limit, right?
Exactly. Wonderful. Great. Well, thanks so much. It's been great having you. We got it together. We're trying to get together for a while. So thanks so much for sharing the secrets source of GuestReady. And I'll be in touch. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, Vanessa. It's great to see all your initiatives that brings the industry together, such as this podcast or your other VR tech initiatives. It's just amazing. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Cheers, Alex. Take care.